The research station floated in the darkness between stars, a small beacon of cooperation in the vast galaxy. Inside its white corridors, scientists from 20 different worlds worked together studying the mysteries of space. Among them was Dr. Sarah Chen, a human woman with kind eyes and quick hands, always ready to help anyone who needed it. Sarah had been at the station for 2 years. She loved her work and the friends she had made. The galaxy was so much bigger than she had imagined as a child on Earth. There were species that breathed methane, others that lived in water tanks, and some that communicated through color changes on their skin. Sarah treated them all with the same warmth and curiosity that made humans special. The Galactic Council had accepted humanity 15 years ago. It was a proud moment for Earth. Finally, humans could walk among the stars as equals. But the truth was different. In the great halls of the Council, where representatives from hundreds of worlds gathered, humans were seen as newcomers, young, naive, weak. The older species smiled at human enthusiasm the way adults smile at children. They had been traveling the stars for thousands of years before humans even invented the wheel. What could these emotional primates possibly teach them? The Krell Dominion did not even bother to smile. They were a proud warrior race, standing over 7 feet tall with scales like armor and eyes like frozen amber. For centuries, they had expanded their territory, always careful to stay within the rules. The Council loved its rules. As long as you followed the proper procedures, you could do almost anything. On the morning everything changed, Sarah was in the botanical lab, examining samples of stellar algae that grew near neutron stars. Her colleague, a furry 6-legged Vrex named Chitrik, was helping her calibrate the instruments. "You hum when you work," Chitrik observed, his translator device converting his clicks into standard language. "It is a pleasant sound," Sarah laughed. "It's an old human habit. My mother used to hum in the kitchen. I guess I picked it up." The station's alarm interrupted them. Not the emergency alarm, but the notification tone for incoming ships. Through the viewport, Sarah could see them arriving. 5 Krell warships, their hulls dark and angular like knives. The station commander, a diplomatic Xanthari with blue skin, appeared on all the screens. His face tentacles were tight with worry. "Attention all personnel. We have Krell forces requesting permission to board for a routine inspection. Please remain calm and cooperate fully." Sarah and Chitrik exchanged glances. There was nothing routine about this. The station was in neutral space protected by Council law. Inspections required advance notice and Council observers. Within an hour, Krell soldiers marched through the corridors. They were armed, which was also against protocol. The station's small security force could do nothing. They were scientists and peacekeepers, not soldiers. Sarah was in the communications center when the Krell commander entered. He was massive, even for his species, with fresh scars across his snout that spoke of recent battles. His name was Varkesh, and his reputation was known even to humans. He was efficient, ruthless, and ambitious. "You are the human," Varkesh said. It was not a question. "Dr. Sarah Chen," she replied, keeping her voice steady. "Can I help you? You will provide access codes to Earth's communication network." Sarah's heart began to pound. "I can't do that. Those codes are classified. Even if I had them, which I don't, it would violate about 15 Council regulations." Varkesh moved closer. His breath smelled like copper and sulfur. "You misunderstand. This is not a request. Then it's definitely something I can't help you with." Sarah stood her ground, though her hands were shaking. "You need to speak to the Council. Go through proper channels." The Krell commander studied her for a long moment. Then he made a gesture and 2 soldiers grabbed Sarah's arms. They dragged her to the central plaza, where all the station's personnel were being gathered. Chitrik tried to reach her. "Sarah, let her go!" A Krell soldier pushed him back. Varkesh activated the station's broadcast system. Sarah realized with horror that this was being transmitted across the station's network. It would be recorded, sent to the Council. "Seen by thousands of worlds, let this be a lesson," Varkesh announced, his voice echoing through the plaza and across the stars. "The Krell Dominion does not accept disrespect. We do not accept defiance, especially not from lesser species who forget their place." He drew his weapon, a plasma pistol that hummed with deadly energy. Sarah looked at the faces around her. Her friends, her colleagues. She thought of Earth, green and blue, spinning in the darkness. She thought of her sister and her nephew, who she had promised to visit next year. "I'm sorry." she whispered, though she did not know who she was apologizing to. The shot was quick. Sarah fell without a sound. For a moment, the entire station was silent. Then the screaming began. Chitrik's howl of grief cut through the air. A Xanthari scientist collapsed. Others simply stared, unable to process what they had just witnessed. Varkesh holstered his weapon. Resume your work. The Krell Dominion thanks you for your cooperation. The warships departed an hour later. They left chaos behind them. The station commander immediately sent reports to the council. The other scientists sent messages to their homeworlds. And on Earth, in the human embassy on the council's central world, Ambassador Marcus Okafor watched the recording with trembling hands. He watched it again. And again. Each time hoping he had seen it wrong, but there was no mistake. A human had been killed, murdered in cold blood, broadcast like a message, like a warning. Marcus picked up his communicator and sent a single encrypted message to Earth. Implement Protocol Nightfall. They killed one of ours. Within hours, every human diplomat in the galaxy received the same order. Return home immediately, no explanations. No goodbyes. The human embassies went dark. The human trade ships turned around. The human colony world stopped all outgoing communications. The galaxy noticed. Of course they noticed. But they did not understand. They thought it was grief. Political theater. Perhaps humans would file a complaint with the council. Maybe they would demand sanctions against the Krell. They did not know that Earth had been preparing for this moment since before they ever left their home world. They did not know that humans had a saying old as their civilization, touch one, answer to all. They did not know that humanity's silence was not submission, it was the quiet before the storm. The Galactic Council chambers were filled with worried murmurs. Representatives from hundreds of worlds gathered in the circular hall, each in their designated section. The Xanthari in their water-filled spheres, the crystalline Luxari reflecting rainbow light, the ancient hierarchy delegates in their floating meditation platforms, Chancellor Vornis, a tall being with 4 arms and skin like polished stone, called for order. His voice carried authority earned over 2 centuries of service. We are here to discuss the human situation. 3 days have passed since the incident at Research Station Kepler 442. The humans have gone completely silent. It is grief, suggested Representative Thola of the Centauran Alliance, her feathers ruffled with sympathy. They are a young species. They feel emotions strongly. Give them time. Time for what? This came from the Krell section. Warlord Kress, Varkesh's superior, stood with his arms crossed. His scales gleamed under the chamber lights. Time to accept reality? 1 human died because she refused a lawful order. The matter is closed. A wave of uncomfortable shifting went through the chamber. Many disagreed with Kress's assessment, but few wanted to challenge the Krell openly. They were too powerful, too aggressive. The execution was broadcast publicly, Chancellor Vornis said carefully. It was harsh, perhaps unnecessarily so, Kress snorted. It was a message. Humans need to learn their place in the galactic order. They arrived 15 years ago with their primitive ships and their emotional decision-making. They have a dozen colony worlds. We have conquered species with 1,000 worlds. They should be grateful we only killed 1. In the observation gallery, a small group watched the proceedings with growing unease. They were the archivists, keepers of galactic history, a species so old that no one remembered their original name. Their leader, simply called Elder Moth, turned to his companion. They do not understand, Moth whispered, his ancient voice like dry leaves. No one has studied the humans like we have, his companion agreed. Should we warn them? Would they listen? The debate in the council chambers continued. Most representatives believed this would end like every other dispute. There would be diplomatic meetings. Economic sanctions, perhaps, stern words and carefully worded resolutions. Then everyone would move on. The Vrex delegate, however, was not participating in the discussion. She had returned to her homeworld immediately after the council session ended. The Vrex had been studying human history for years, fascinated by their evolution and culture. What they had learned terrified them. On the aquatic world of Cythera, the government was holding emergency sessions. The Sithari had traded extensively with humans, and their analysts had noticed something troubling. Human cargo ships had been disappearing from trade routes. Not all of them, but enough to be noticed. The ships were not destroyed. They were simply going somewhere else. Where are they going? the Sithari Prime Minister asked. Home, her military advisor replied. They are all going home. In the Krell Dominion's war rooms, military planners were laughing. They had pulled up the latest intelligence reports on human military capabilities. The numbers were underwhelming. 200 military vessels. General Throck read from his datapad. Their largest ship is barely half the size of our destroyers. Their weapons technology is adequate but not exceptional. Their total military personnel across all colonies is estimated at 3 million. We have 40,000 warships, Kress noted, and 2 billion soldiers. This is not even a fair fight. Should we prepare for retaliation? A junior officer asked. The room erupted in laughter. Prepare for what? Throck wiped tears from his eyes. They are insects. Emotional, weak insects who cry over one dead scientist. Let them sulk in their corner of space. If they try anything, we will crush them in an afternoon. But not everyone was so confident. On the hierarchy homeworld, the oldest and most powerful species in the galaxy held their own meetings. They had maintained galactic peace for 10,000 years, not through force but through careful manipulation and superior technology. The humans concern me, High Arbiter Zelvin admitted to his council. Their behavior is unusual. They are grieving, one advisor suggested. No. Zelvin pulled up recordings from the human embassy before it closed. He showed them security footage of Ambassador Okafor. Look at his face. That is not grief. That is determination. The council members leaned forward, studying the image. Okafor's expression was cold, focused, and utterly calm. Perhaps we should reach out to them, another advisor suggested. They are not accepting communications, Zelvan replied. Not from anyone. Every message bounces back with the same automated response. Earth requires time to process recent events. We will resume diplomatic contact when ready. How long should we wait? I do not know, but I do not like this silence. On the human colony world of New Terra, the civilian population was watching the night sky. They had received the message from Earth. The factories that had been producing agricultural equipment had switched to something else. The workers did not know what they were building, only that it was classified and urgent. Maria Torres stood on her porch holding her daughter's hand. She was a teacher and she had loved this colony world since the day they arrived. It was peaceful, safe, a place where children could grow up without fear. Mama, why are there so many ships in the sky? Her daughter asked. Maria looked up. Dozens of vessels were arriving, too many to count. They were not civilian ships. Even from the ground she could tell they were military vessels, their hulls dark and angular. I don't know, sweetie, Maria lied, but she did know. Every human in the galaxy knew, even if they did not want to admit it. The message had been clear. One of ours. All of ours. In the hidden military facilities beneath Luna, Earth's moon, generals and admirals were working around the clock. They had wargamed this scenario 1,000 times. Humanity had always known this day might come. The galaxy was too big, too full of species with different values and different ideas about right and wrong. They had prepared. Oh, how they had prepared. Admiral Chen Zhao, no relation to Sarah Chen, though he felt the connection like a knife in his heart, stood before a holographic display showing the entire galaxy. Red dots marked Krell military installations. Blue dots showed human assets. We have been hiding our true strength for 15 years, he told his staff. The council thinks we have 200 warships. They do not know about the reserve fleet. They do not know about the autonomous defense platforms. They do not know what we can really do. What are our orders, sir? A young captain asked. Admiral Zhao's face was grim. We wait 3 more weeks. We give the council time to deliver justice. If they do nothing, if they let the Krell walk away from this. He did not finish the sentence. He did not need to. Every person in that room knew what came next. On Earth itself, in a small apartment in Beijing, Sarah Chen's sister received a letter. It was handwritten, which was rare in an age of digital communication. The letter was from the Earth Defense Force. Dear Ms. Chen, it read, your sister died serving humanity's greatest dream, reaching the stars in peace. Her death will not be in vain. Justice will be served. This we promise you. This we promise all of humanity. She read the letter 3 times, tears streaming down her face. Then she looked out her window at the blue sky, wondering what justice would look like. Across the galaxy, the other species went about their business. They filed reports. They debated policies. They made jokes about emotional humans. They did not see the storm gathering in the darkness of human space. They did not hear the weapons being loaded, the ships being launched, the soldiers being mobilized. They did not understand that they had made a terrible mistake. They had killed a human and thought there would be no consequences. They were about to learn how wrong they were. 21 days after Sarah Chen's death, the Krell military installation at Draken 7 was preparing for a routine shift change. The station orbited a gas giant in Krell space, far from any disputed territories. It housed 3,000 soldiers and served as a supply depot for the surrounding sector. Commander Rylock was reviewing supply manifests when every alarm in the station began screaming at once. "Report," he roared, rushing to the command center. "Ships emerging from jump space," his sensor officer shouted. 30 contacts, no 50, no." The officer's voice cracked with disbelief. "Over 100 vessels, sir. They are right on top of us." "Identification?" They're human ships, sir." The command center fell silent. Then Rylock laughed. "Humans? 100 human ships? They only have 200 in their entire fleet. This must be their entire military. They have lost their minds." But then the weapons fire began. The human ships did not broadcast challenges. They did not demand surrender. They simply opened fire with a precision that spoke of careful planning. The first salvo destroyed every communication array on the station. The second took out the weapon platforms. The third hit the shield generators. It was over in 4 minutes. Rylock found himself staring at his screens in shock. His station was crippled, and the human ships were just sitting there, surrounding them like sharks circling wounded prey. Then a transmission came through on emergency channels. A human face appeared on the screen. It was Admiral Chen Zhao, though Rylock did not know his name. "Krell Commander Rylock," the human said in perfect Krell language. "You are going to send a message for us." "We do not take orders from humans," Rylock snarled. "You misunderstand. This is not a negotiation." The human ships opened fire again, this time on the residential section of the station. 10 shots. 10 precise hits. 10 families died. "Stop!" Rylock screamed. "Will you send our message?" Rylock's hands were shaking. "What message?" "Tell your leaders that humanity is calling. Tell them we want Commander Varkesh, the one who murdered Dr. Sarah Chen. Tell them they have 72 hours to deliver him for trial. If they refuse, we will continue these visits. You cannot, we can. We are, and Commander Rylock, remember that we could have destroyed your entire station in the first 30 seconds. We chose not to. Think about that." The human ships vanished back into jump space, leaving behind a crippled station and 3,000 terrified Krell soldiers. But Dracon 7 was not the only target. Across Krell space, 6 more installations experienced the same terrifying assault. Human ships appeared without warning, struck with brutal efficiency, and vanished before reinforcements could arrive. At each location, they left the same message. "Give us Varkesh." The Galactic Council convened an emergency session within hours. The chambers were in chaos. Representatives shouted over each other, demanding explanations, seeking answers. "This is an act of war." Warlord Kress roared. "The humans have attacked 7 of our installations." Chancellor Vornus was pale with shock. "Where did those ships come from?" "Our intelligence said humans only had 200 vessels." "They lied," High Arbiter Zelvin said quietly. "Or we failed to look closely enough." "We must intervene," the Centauran representative pleaded, "before this escalates further." But before anyone could respond, new reports began flooding in. Human ships had been spotted near Council space. Not attacking, just watching, waiting. There were hundreds of them. "How many ships do the humans have?" someone asked. No one knew the answer. The Krell Dominion's response came swiftly. If humans wanted war, they would give them war. Warlord Kress personally led a fleet of 300 warships to the human colony of New Terra. It was a farming world, lightly defended, with a population of 50,000. They would make an example of it. The Krell fleet arrived in the New Terra system expecting an easy victory. They found a different kind of welcome. As soon as they dropped out of jump space, automated defense platforms activated. Hundreds of them. They had been hidden in the asteroid belt, disguised as mining stations and communication relays. The Krell fleet found itself in a crossfire. Missiles, kinetic rounds, and energy weapons poured from every direction. Ships exploded. Hulls cracked. Soldiers died. "Retreat," Kress ordered. "Get us out of here!" But the humans had thought of that too. Jump inhibitors activated, creating a field that prevented faster-than-light travel. The Krell were trapped. 200 warships entered the system. 67 limped out. New Terra's surface remained untouched, but Kress was not finished. If he could not hit their military, he would hit their civilians. The Krell fleet regrouped and attacked the agricultural colony of Harvest Moon. There were no military installations there. No hidden defenses. Just farms and families. The bombardment lasted an hour. When it was over, 50,000 human civilians were dead. The galaxy watched in horror. Surely this would end it. Surely the humans would see they were outmatched and surrender. Instead, Earth's response was a single transmission, broadcast across every channel in the galaxy. Admiral Zhao's face appeared on billions of screens. The Krell Dominion has chosen to murder our civilians. They believe this will break our will. They are wrong. For every human civilian killed, we will extract tenfold justice. This is not a threat. This is a promise. What followed would later be called the 72-Hour War. Human fleets appeared at 3 Krell fortress worlds simultaneously. These were not raids. These were invasions. The humans did not try to destroy the planets. They captured them. The Krell military, built for aggressive expansion and glorious battle, found themselves facing an enemy that fought like nothing they had ever encountered. The humans used psychological warfare, broadcasting the names and faces of every Krell civilian who had died. They used precision strikes that disabled rather than destroyed. They used AI-coordinated swarms of drones that the Krell could barely track, and they were angry. 50,000 dead civilians had lit a fire in humanity that burned hotter than any star. On the fortress world of Krell Prime 7, the planetary governor found himself surrounded by human marines. They had breached every defense, neutralized every weapon, and now they stood in his command center with weapons raised. "I surrender," the governor said, expecting execution. "Good," the human commander replied. "You will be tried for war crimes. Complicity in civilian bombardment. If you are found guilty, you will spend the rest of your life in prison. You are not going to kill me. We are not the Krell. We do not execute prisoners." The irony was not lost on anyone. Within 72 hours, 3 Krell fortress worlds were under human control. Krell military casualties numbered in the hundreds of thousands. Human casualties were less than 5,000. The Galactic Council sent desperate messages to Earth, begging for a ceasefire. The humans ignored them all. The Krell Dominion sent messages offering negotiations. The humans responded with a single word: Varkesh. Warlord Kress held an emergency meeting with his generals. They reviewed the tactical data, the casualty reports, the strategic assessments. The picture was clear and terrifying. "How are they doing this?" Kress asked, his voice hollow. General Throck pulled up comparative data. "They have been underestimating for years. Their ships are faster than we thought. Their weapons are more powerful. Their tactics are more sophisticated. And their AI integration?" He shook his head. "We believed they had no AI. We were wrong. Can we win?" The silence that followed was answer enough. "They have only shown us a fraction of their fleet," Throck continued. "Intelligence now estimates they have at least 800 warships, possibly more, and they are producing more every day. Their industrial capacity was hidden from us." "What do they want?" Kress asked, though he already knew the answer. "Justice. They want Varkesh. They want us to pay for killing their civilians. And they want us to never forget what happens when you kill a human." Kress closed his eyes. Pride warred with survival instinct. His entire life he had been taught that the Krell were superior. The strongest. The most ruthless. The humans had proven otherwise. "Find Varkesh," he said finally. "Bring him to me." But Varkesh was already gone, fled into hiding, hoping the storm would pass him by. The storm was just beginning. The Galactic Council chambers had never been so packed. Every species with a seat had sent their highest representatives. Even the isolationist species who normally avoided politics had sent observers. Everyone wanted to understand what was happening with the humans. Chancellor Vornis looked older than his 200 years. He had spent the last week trying to mediate between Earth and the Krell Dominion. Both sides had refused to speak with him. "We must act," he told the assembled delegates. "The humans have conquered 3 Krell worlds. They show no signs of stopping. If we do not intervene, this war could spread across the entire galaxy." High Arbiter Zelvin of the Hierarchy stood, His species had maintained galactic order for millennia, and he spoke with the weight of that history. I propose we send a peacekeeping fleet, not to fight the humans, but to create a buffer zone, to force both sides to negotiate. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. How large a fleet? Asked the Centauran representative. 2,000 ships, Zelvin replied. From 12 different species. Enough to show we are serious. The vote was swift. Only the Vrex and the Sathari voted against it. They had studied humans. They knew this was a mistake. But they were outvoted. Within days, the coalition fleet assembled. It was the largest peacekeeping force in Council history. Ships from the hierarchy, the Centaurans, the Luxari, and 9 other species gathered at the edge of human space. The fleet's commander was Admiral Telnor, a hierarchy officer with 50 years of experience. He had resolved 7 conflicts without firing a shot. He was confident this would be the 8th. Broadcast our message on all human channels, he ordered. The message was simple and direct. This is Coalition Fleet Alpha to all human forces. We are here to establish peace. Power down your weapons and prepare for diplomatic negotiations. Respond within 1 standard hour. The hour passed. Then another. The humans did not respond. Sir, we are detecting a human battle group, the sensor officer reported. 30 ships heading toward the Krell border. They will pass through our position. Intercept course, Telnor ordered. We will show them we are serious. The coalition fleet moved to block the human ships. 2,000 vessels against 30. The humans would have to acknowledge them now, but the human ships did not slow down. They did not respond to hails. They simply adjusted course and headed for a nearby nebula. They are running, someone said. Pursue them, Telnor ordered. We need to force a dialogue. The coalition fleet followed the humans into the nebula. It was a dense stellar nursery, full of gas and dust and electromagnetic interference. Sensors worked poorly here. Communication was difficult. I do not like this, the tactical officer muttered. Maintain pursuit, Telnor insisted. They cannot escape. The human ships vanished into the deepest part of the nebula. The coalition fleet followed. And then the nebula came alive. Automated weapons platforms activated by the hundreds. They had been placed carefully hidden in the dust clouds, waiting for this exact moment. The platforms were simple, cheap, and deadly. Each one carried a single missile or kinetic projectile. The first salvo hit the coalition fleet like a hammer. Ships exploded. Hulls cracked open. Crews died. Evasive maneuvers, Telnor screamed, but there was nowhere to go. The platforms were everywhere, firing from every angle. The nebula that had hidden them now trapped the coalition fleet in a killing zone. Jump out. Everyone jump out. The ships that could escape did. Nearly 1,200 vessels managed to activate their jump drives and flee. The rest were destroyed or left crippled and drifting. The coalition fleet had lost 60% of its strength in less than 10 minutes. When the survivors limped back to council space, they found a message waiting. It had been broadcast to every ship in the fleet, recorded at the moment the trap was sprung. Admiral Zhao's face filled the screens. His expression was cold and merciless. You were warned to stay out of this. The Krell killed our people. This is between us and them. You chose to intervene. You chose to help those who murdered our civilians. So now you are part of this war. Consider carefully whether you want to continue down this path. We came for the Krell. You made this bigger. The message ended. The silence that followed was deafening. Chancellor Vornis received the casualty reports with shaking hands. Over 800 ships destroyed. Tens of thousands dead. Species that had been allies for centuries were demanding explanations, demanding justice, demanding action. How did they do this? Someone asked. The archivists, who had been silent throughout the crisis, finally spoke. Elder Moth addressed the council with his ancient, raspy voice. You asked the wrong questions, he said. You asked how many ships do the humans have. You asked what weapons they possess. You did not ask the important question. What kind of species are humans? What do you mean? Fornis asked. We have studied 10,000 species across galactic history, Moth continued. Most evolved in safe environments, stable climates, few predators. They reached for the stars as explorers and traders. Humans are different. The archivists displayed images of Earth, beautiful oceans, towering mountains, deadly storms, massive predators. Humans evolved on what we classify as a death world. High gravity, extreme weather, countless predators, diseases that killed millions. They survived not because they were the strongest or the fastest, but because they worked together, because they protected each other. More images appeared. Human history. Wars. Weapons. Cities rising and falling. They reached the stars while holding weapons that could destroy their entire planet. They created artificial intelligence while fighting wars with each other. They are a species that evolved to face extinction-level threats and survive. The Council watched in silence as the archivists showed humanity's wars. The tactics. The strategies. The sheer determination. You killed one human, Moth said softly. You did not kill a scientist or a citizen. You killed part of their tribe. And humans will cross any distance, pay any price to protect their tribe. This is not cruelty. This is their survival instinct. This is who they are. What do we do? Fornus asked. Stop getting in their way, Moth replied. They did not ask for our help. They did not attack our worlds. They are hunting the Krell, and you should let them finish. But the Krell were not finished yet. Warlord Kress, desperate and angry, made one final gamble. If the humans wanted Varkesh, he would give them Varkesh. But not as a prisoner. As a martyr, Kress found Varkesh hiding on a remote outpost. He brought him to the Krell homeworld, to the Grand Assembly where all the Dominion's leaders gathered. You will confess, Kress told him. You will tell the galaxy that you acted alone without orders, that your crime was personal, not political, and then you will take your own life to restore Krell honor. Varkesh stared at him in disbelief. You want me to die to save your reputation? I want you to die to save our species, Kress replied. The humans are destroying us. They have taken 3 worlds. They have killed hundreds of thousands of our soldiers, and they will not stop until they have you. So give yourself to them, not as our prisoner but as our sacrifice, but Varkesh refused. He had seen too many battles, survived too many fights. He was not ready to die, so he ran again. This time he took a small ship and fled toward the galactic rim, toward the unexplored regions where even the Council did not patrol. The humans tracked him. They always tracked him. Their intelligence network had grown frighteningly efficient. Every Krell ship that left port was monitored. Every communication was intercepted. Every hiding place was eventually found. On the 6th week after Sarah Chen's death, human ships cornered Varkesh near a dead star. There was nowhere left to run, but humans did not kill him. They captured him alive carefully and precisely. They brought him back to human space, where he would face trial. The galaxy watched as Varkesh was transferred to Earth. The news networks broadcast every moment. Some called it justice. Others called it revenge. Many simply called it terrifying. Because if humans could find one individual across an entire galaxy, if they could track him through 100 star systems and capture him alive, what else could they do? The Krell Dominion had one last card to play. Their homeworld, Krell Prime, was protected by the most advanced defenses in the galaxy. Massive orbital platforms, thousands of ships, planetary shields that could withstand a supernova. If the humans wanted to truly break the Krell, they would have to crack that defense, and that was impossible. Admiral Zhao stood on the bridge of his flagship looking at the star map. Krell Prime glowed red at the center. They think they are safe, his tactical officer said. They are wrong, Zhao replied. Prepare the stellar mass ejector. Let us show them what humans can do when they truly commit to war. The weapon had been in development for decades, a device that could manipulate stellar phenomena, forcing a star to release a controlled burst of its corona. The radiation would strip away shields, fry electronics, and make any planet temporarily uninhabitable. It was the kind of weapon the galaxy thought only existed in theory. The humans were about to prove it was very real. The Krell homeworld, Krell Prime, had stood unconquered for 3,000 years. Its defenses were legendary. The orbital platforms could destroy entire fleets. The planetary shields could withstand bombardment from 100 warships. The Krell people believed their home was invincible. Warlord Kress stood in the command center, watching the approaching human fleet. 200 ships. It was a large force, but nothing his defenses could not handle. They are fools to come here, he told his generals. Let them break themselves against our shields. But the human fleet stopped at the edge of the system. They did not advance. They did not open fire. Instead, a single ship moved forward. It was strange looking, more laboratory than warship, with massive arrays and generators visible on its hull. What is that? Kress demanded. Before anyone could answer, the ship activated. The Krell sun, a stable yellow star that had burned for billions of years, suddenly flickered. Just for a moment, just enough to be noticed. Then it happened again, and again. Each time a pulse of radiation burst from the star's surface, directed by magnetic fields that should not exist in nature. The human ship was manipulating the star itself. The radiation hit Krell Prime like an invisible hammer. The planetary shields flared and died. Electronics across the planet went dark. Communication networks failed. The mighty orbital platforms drifted silent and powerless. A transmission came through on emergency backup systems. Admiral Zhao's face appeared. "Warlord Kress, your defenses are gone. Your fleet is disabled. You have 24 hours to surrender unconditionally. If you refuse, we will increase the intensity until your planet becomes uninhabitable. This is your only warning." Kress stared at the screen, his mind refusing to accept what had just happened. They had turned the sun into a weapon. The humans had turned a star into a weapon. How? He whispered. His chief scientist was pale with shock. The theoretical work existed. We all knew about stellar manipulation, but no one thought it could be weaponized. The power requirements alone, can we stop them? No, sir. The device is outside our weapon range. Even if we could reach it, our systems are fried. We have nothing that can threaten them right now. Kress looked around at his generals, his advisors, his warriors. They had conquered hundreds of worlds. They had never known defeat. And now in their own home system, they were helpless. "Send the surrender," he said finally. His voice was empty, broken. The transmission went out across the galaxy. The Krell Dominion surrendered unconditionally. They agreed to all human terms. War crimes trials for everyone involved in Sarah Chen's death and the civilian massacre. Full reparations to human colonies, permanent human military observers in Krell space, and the immediate handover of Commander Varkesh. The war was over. It had lasted 8 weeks. The Krell, who had terrorized the galaxy for centuries, had been brought to their knees by the species everyone had dismissed as young and weak. 3 months later, the trial began. It was held on Earth, in the rebuilt International Court of Justice in The Hague. The courtroom was packed with observers from every species in the galaxy. News networks broadcast to billions of worlds. Commander Varkesh stood in the defendant's box, his scales dulled, his eyes downcast. He looked smaller somehow, as if the weight of what he had done had physically diminished him. The prosecutor was a human woman named Amara Johnson. She presented the evidence calmly and methodically. The video of Sarah Chen's execution, the testimony of witnesses, the communications showing that Varkesh had exceeded his authority and acted with unnecessary cruelty. Varkesh's defense argued that he was following Krell military culture, that by their standards his actions were justified, that different species had different values. Ambassador Marcus Okafor, who had been given a special role as representative of humanity, stood to respond. "Different values," he said slowly. "Yes, species do have different values, but there are some values that must be universal. The value of life, the value of justice, the value of proportionate response." Commander Varkesh did not kill Dr. Chen because she was a threat. He killed her to send a message. He killed her to demonstrate power. That is not a cultural difference. That is murder. The trial lasted 2 weeks. The judges, a panel of 3 humans, deliberated for 3 days. When they returned, the verdict was unanimous. Guilty Varkesh was sentenced to life imprisonment without possibility of parole. He would spend the rest of his life in a human prison, alive but stripped of freedom, a living reminder of the cost of cruelty. The galaxy expected execution. They would have understood execution, but humanity chose mercy instead. And somehow that was more terrifying. It showed control. It showed that human fury, once unleashed, could also be restrained. The Galactic Council convened one final time to address the aftermath of the war. Chancellor Vornis looked out at the assembled delegates. The chamber was subdued. The cocky confidence that had defined council politics for so long had vanished. "We must address humanity's place in the galaxy," Vornis said. "They have demonstrated military capabilities far beyond what we believed possible. We have 3 choices. We can try to contain them through force. We can isolate them through diplomacy. Or we can accept them as equals." High Arbiter Zelvan stood. "We tried force. 12 species sent 2,000 ships. The humans destroyed most of them without breaking stride. Force is not an option. Isolation," someone suggested. "How?" the Sithari representative asked. "They have technology we do not fully understand." weapons we cannot counter, and they are not aggressive by nature. They did not attack us. They attacked the Krell for a specific reason. Isolating them punishes us more than them. The chamber fell silent. The answer was obvious, but no one wanted to say it. Finally, Elder Moth of the Archivists spoke. Accept them. Not as junior members, but as what they are, a Tier 1 military power. Give them veto authority in council security matters. Guarantee their sovereignty, and most importantly, learn from this mistake. What mistake? Fornus asked. You assumed that because humans were young, they were weak. You assumed that because they were emotional, they were irrational. You assumed that because they valued peace, they could not wage war. All of these assumptions were wrong. The vote was not even close. Humanity was granted full Tier 1 status. They received permanent veto power in the council. Their territory was guaranteed. And a new law was passed. Lethal force against any species civilians without immediate self-defense justification was now grounds for species-level military response. It was called the Chen Amendment. Sarah's death had changed galactic law. 1 year after the incident at Research Station Kepler 442, a new facility opened in the same sector. It was called the Dr. Sarah Chen Memorial Research Station. Built with Krell reparations, it was larger and more advanced than the original. Scientists from 200 species worked there, studying the mysteries of the universe together. Ambassador Okafor attended the dedication ceremony. He stood at the podium, looking out at the crowd of humans and aliens who had come to honor Sarah's memory. We did not want this war, he said. His voice was quiet but carried across the silent crowd. We wanted to explore, to learn, to make friends among the stars. For 15 years, that was our dream. And then someone took that dream and broke it by murdering one of our own. He paused, gathering his thoughts. We learned something about ourselves in these past months. We learned that we will cross any distance to protect our people. We will pay any price. We will face any enemy, not because we love war, but because we love each other. Dr. Chen was not just a scientist. She was someone's sister, someone's friend, someone's colleague. She was part of our human family, and we do not abandon family. The crowd was silent, hanging on every word. We hope never to show you that side of humanity again. We hope this station stands as a reminder that cooperation is better than conflict, that peace is better than war. But if anyone ever forgets, if anyone ever thinks that human lives are worth less than political convenience, Okafor's eyes swept across the alien delegates. The galaxy is not ready for what we become when you threaten our own. The ceremony ended. The scientists returned to their work. The galaxy moved on as galaxies do, but things had changed. When human diplomats spoke in council chambers now, others listened. When human ships passed through space, others gave them room. Not out of hatred or fear alone, but out of respect earned through terrible lessons. On Earth, in a small apartment in Beijing, Sarah Chen's sister kept the letter from the Earth Defense Force in a frame on her wall. Next to it was a picture of Sarah, smiling in her lab coat, surrounded by alien colleagues who had loved her. Sometimes late at night, she would look at that picture and whisper, "They remembered you. Sarah, the whole species remembered you." And far across the galaxy on the research station that bore her name, Chitrik the Vrek scientist would sometimes stop in his work and look out at the stars. He would think of his friend who had hummed while she worked, who had been kind to everyone, who had died for refusing to betray her people. "We remember too," he would whisper in his clicking language. "We all remember." In the end, that was humanity's greatest weapon. Not their ships or their technology or their weapons. It was their capacity to love fiercely enough that the loss of one could mobilize an entire species, to care deeply enough that justice for a single individual became justice for all. The galaxy had learned a hard lesson. Never underestimate a species that values each life as if it were the only one that mattered. Because when you kill one human, you do not just kill an individual. You attack their entire family, their entire tribe, their entire species, and they will come for you, all of them, together. The galaxy was not ready for Earth's fury, but now at least they would never forget it.